Hello and welcome back to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Mayer, and it's fantastic to have you join us for another insightful episode. Before we dive in, remember to check out our website at manufacturingculturepodcast.com for all of our episodes and show notes. You can also catch us now at the Manufacturing Connector. That's themfgconnector.com. You can also find us buzzing with activity on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, so make sure to follow us there too. This month, we're exploring software that drives cultural change in the manufacturing industry, and today we're talking with a pioneer in the field. Our guest is Michael Corrales, a seasoned expert with over 20 years of experience in manufacturing, operations, supply chain management, and management consulting. Michael has been at the forefront of integrating innovative software solutions in the manufacturing world, embodying the spirit of Kaizen by continually seeking improvement and applying the best practices to enhance manufacturing success. Michael is currently making waves at 1Factory, where powerful software tools are transforming how manufacturers, suppliers, and their entire supply chains can achieve quality and efficiency. 1Factory is a revolution in quality control, offering features like automated PDF drawing ballooning, which drastically cuts down on manual input time and errors and allows for instant updates to quality control plans. We'll also explore how 1Factory software manages complex tasks like automated drawing revision comparison and quality control plans, simplifying tracking changes, maintaining industry standards, and ensuring the highest quality of manufacturing processes. Whether it's their innovative approach to managing spec libraries or the groundbreaking way they easily handle first article inspections, 1Factory is setting a new standard in the industry. Furthermore, I hope Michael will share insights on how embracing these technologies improves operational efficiency and fosters a culture of continuous improvement and collaboration across all levels of manufacturing. It's about ensuring that every part, every process, and every person in the supply chain thrives in an environment geared towards excellence. So gear up, folks, as we jump into an episode about how software like 1Factory is reshaping the cultural landscape of manufacturing industries worldwide. It promises to be a conversation filled with fascinating revelations and practical insights to help any manufacturing entity advance towards a more efficient and error-free future. Let's get started and welcome Michael Corrales to the show. Hello, Michael. Welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. How are you doing today?
Appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Excited to have you here. Michael, you and I met at West Tech last fall of 23. Was walking around. I saw this booth with software that looked like it could absolutely change the way that people operate. And I'm a firm believer, Michael, that software really can drive cultural change because the people within these factories, within these facilities, they have to have the right tools to do their jobs well. And I really think that 1Factory, I was drawn to it. I think 1Factory is one of those solutions. So thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Jim.
So Michael, as we start every episode, tell us your story, man. How did you get to where you are today, leading 1Factory in the way that you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was lucky enough that I came from a family of manufacturers. So, my grandfather had started his manufacturing business back in the 50s, and kind of a product of nepotism, right? My father and uncles, aunts, and everybody, they were all in the business, so to speak. And when I was young, that's basically when I started, just doing basic stuff like packaging parts and driving, and then eventually doing inventory management and quality control. Went to school for CAD, did some engineering stuff. Finally got on like supply chain and cost accounting, and just helped them to run a lot of the businesses. And eventually made my way to Singapore. helped them to set up a flagship operation there. Was driving supply chain there as well. Came back to the States, helped them to manage their business in Texas. And I said, you know what? I've been here for 20 years almost. I'm curious to learn more. I want to see what else is out there for manufacturers. So I joined a local company, here in the Austin area. They're fabricating quartz parts for semiconductors. And
wow.
I had remembered the conversations that in the past that I had with folks over at 1Factory. 1Factory eventually got reconnected with them, and that's kind of my full circle journey.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And so tell us more about 1Factory, and just a brief overview. I mean, I gave some in the intro there, but tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, 1Factory was really, the brainchild of our CEO, Nipun Garotra. And, he spent a lot of time inside of manufacturing facilities, helping them to run them, again, particularly around the semiconductor side. And the same sort of situation kept popping up over and over, which is, these large OEMs are driving requirements and they're driving it down towards their supply chain, who typically doesn't have the right or proper toolkit to help kind of manage this stuff. They've got a siloed solution here for gauges, and they do inspections on Excel, and maybe they've got a ballooning software, and they're just doing PDF, and then something for SPC, and you start adding all these up, and you realize you've got a bunch of siloed systems. None of them talk to each other. Hard to get information from one to the next, and that was really the problem that was set out to solve. And instead of taking the initial approach, which is starting with the OEM and getting them to buy into the system and then working down the supply chain, we said, you know what, if we're going to fix problems, we want to fix them at source. Let's start with the supplier, understand their plight, what they need, how they do, why they do, and build them a solution that's scalable, feasible to use, and works for their manufacturing environments.
That's awesome. I mean, we live in a world that is constantly seeking better efficiency, right? And better processes. And so that sounds like it really was the key challenge or gap in the quality control processes that your founder aimed to address when this software was first developed. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. And the goal was always eventually to be able to, connect the supply chain together, have all this information be, transmitted back to customers. But before we even got there, right, the impetus was really solve the quality at source problems, help the manufacturer, connect the toolkit, make it easy, make it simple for them. There, as and a lot of your listeners know, manufacturing has been around for generations, and a lot of the folks that are still in the industry today didn't always grow up with the computer. They have a very hardcore technical skill set. They're very good at what they do. Getting them to learn 3 or 4 or 5 computer softwares, I mean, it's just not an easy task to do. So those are just some of the challenges we're hoping to solve.
Yeah, that I get that. And in that, I mean, cultural change, every company's got a culture, right? But cultural change is often met with resistance in any industry. It's not native to manufacturing, right? Um, but from your perspective, what are some cultural hurdles in manufacturing that software like 1Factory can help overcome?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great question. So, just back to source, right? When we think about the manufacturer, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners and folks that you talk to, you ask them, hey, why do you do things this way, or what's the challenge with doing that? And the response is always the same, right? It's how it's
That's the way
always
it's
been.
always. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And that's been ingrained in the manufacturing culture. And it makes sense, right? You're making a widget or a SKU, and it needs to be repeatable and reliable. And, you want to standardize on the process. So when you're thinking about, cultural change, whether it's from software or whatnot, that's always the first thing to consider, right? Which is inside of the manufacturing culture, here's what you have that's ingrained. And, the best way to kind of start to encroach upon that barrier is really just through, first is just listening. People just want to hear, they want to feel like they have a say in things. So listening is always number one. And then where appropriate, start to introduce bits of education. Did you know this? Have you seen how this works together? This is the way you do it today. What if you did it like this? Not necessarily trying to force a change or make somebody believe something differently, just by simply listening, educating, and asking questions. I think this is typically the first step to get people thinking and to kind of get on the path of, changing the culture.
No, I love that. And uh, the title of this episode may be "That's the Way It's Always Been Done," because with this, I mean, this will be, I don't know, episode 70 maybe. But in 70 episodes, we haven't talked about that enough, right? I mean, and you're right. Every single place I walk into, that's what I hear when I ask questions about, well, why do you do it this way? Well, that's the way it's always been done. And to me, that is, of course, the most dangerous words in any business, but also it's an opportunity to grow, right? Because if you can find that way around that mindset of that's the way it's always been done, then you can really become something neat, and you can grow in ways that you've never been able to. And so I love how how you put that. um, so talk to us more about One Factory and how, I'm trying to, I had the question, Michael, and it ran away, and I'm trying to like reel it back in here. Um, how One Factory's tools has helped transform a company culture when it comes to quality management, right? And because that's really what you guys address is a quality management side, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's a really good question, and we kind of talked a lot about how the culture even starts to get changed. So just getting the awareness, getting the understanding, and then when you have these organizational barriers like culture, and you're trying to get people to adopt something or even be open minded. I think just giving folks a say, and explaining like, hey, this is. Are you even open to taking a look at something, to seeing how something can be different, or a way that another company may do something. And then as people start to see these pieces put together, they're like, wow, you can do that. Wait, so this does this for me, so I don't have to do that anymore. And then I think people naturally they start to associate and sort of realize that how taking applications like software can help to improve their job, right? It makes it easier, takes away some of the toil, right? Makes them or gives them the ability where they can focus on the things that matter, making a quality product, figuring out how to improve because I have the tools, and not trying to take all of these things that you do that are really sort of ad hoc. They don't really add true value to the product, and focusing on the job set that you want to do, that you're trained to do, that you know how to do, which is manufacture. So
Yeah.
that's really the goal, is to automate a lot of these redundant tasks, streamline information, automate the flow of information from step to step to step. So the manufacturer and the company has what they need, the insights, the data, and they can just focus on exactly what they're doing, and the software and everything takes care of itself.
I love it. I love it. Um, what kind of? I mean, can you share an example of how that's worked with you guys, and some client examples? Is that something you could share?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the most kind of typical use case, right, is, someone will, maybe they'll sign up on the website, or there'll be some kind of a conversation, right? And, the first thing they may ask is, does your software, do ballooning, right? So they're asking almost about a feature. And the way that we like to almost position things is as a business problem. So if someone is
Got it.
coming to you and they're asking about, some particular feature, my question is, it's a great question. Yeah, of course it can do this, but what is your goal of ballooning a drawing, right? And then as you start to ask more questions and layer and layer and layer, what you realize is the pain point isn't necessarily ballooning per se. It's the time that it takes to make this inspection plan, which is what the software is doing for you. So ballooning is just a subset of what you want. And I think as you start to layer on these things and you start to ask questions, that's how this world starts to open up. And then the culture really starts asking, okay, wait a minute. So everything that we think we know, everything that we think we do, maybe can be transitioned or simplified or modified, just by being open to some of these changes. So that's kind of usually how it starts. And then once folks start to see, okay, so control plans or inspection plans start to get automated. What else can you do? Oh, wow, you can autonomously take data from my keyints or my CMMs or whatnot, and push that into inspection records. You mean I don't have to, print out a file and attach it to the reports anymore? I can just click a button and it goes into the system and I see all my SBC and you do that everything automatically?
Yeah.
No idea, and that's where people start to sort of, I think and really understand that the realm of quality control, and of course, other softwares in general, but are starting to become more holistic. They're starting to become more connected and starting to sort of break the mold of all these first generation tools that are really parsed and siloed and trying to connect things and make them more streamlined and organized.
Yeah. So what other tools and platforms does 1Factory integrate with as far as making that ease of use happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one factory has a standard API, right? So we can communicate back into systems, PLM systems, ERP systems, just by simply pulling or pushing data. So that's a pretty typical use case. And then on the, kind of the quality control side, right? As mentioned, there's many different systems that companies are typically using. So 1Factory in most cases will replace like anywhere from 3 to 5 quality systems. So
Wow.
that also makes the job easier. One other thing that people also kind of maybe they don't realize is that when the computer first came out, right? What did it do? Really, it helped accounting people. It helped accounting people be able to do their
Yeah.
job easier. And then all of a sudden, it got connected to the internet, and then manufacturing went through this huge productivity boom, and everyone's connected. And then people are talking about AI next, right? Well, AI is the next big thing. But what folks are kind of missing, or maybe a little bit forgetting, is that cloud is actually sort of the productivity giant of the decade. You don't have to install all this software on all these computers anymore. You don't need an IT guy to have to manage this. It's all done virtually in the background in secure networks. So it's like easier than ever for organizations to adopt technology like this. So it's really just making like leaps and bounds really since the cloud has helped enable and facilitate this a lot easier.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. Very cool. Um, let's shift gears a little bit, Michael. Let's talk about some continuous improvement stuff, because that's continuous improvement, core principle, kaizen, right? It's a massive part of having a good culture, right? Is that continuous improvement mindset and a culture of continuous improvement. How does 1Factory encourage and facilitate that continuous improvement among its users and your clients?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. So continuous improvement in general, right, or like our approach to it is, we provide a service, and that service is really to help manufacturers
Yeah.
and understanding what they need, right, and how to provide those services is instrumental. Customers, right, they have the ability to connect with us, ask for additional features, ask for updates. Somebody will write it on the portal or we'll have a call with the customer and they say, hey, I'm struggling with this. How can I help get that done in the software? Right? We'll make some recommendations, or if we can't, we'll write this stuff down. And doing hundreds of implementations, having hundreds of customers on the platform, and watching how everyone maybe used it in different ways. Or as when you're talking with new potential customers where they're asking for things, what ends up happening is if you just listen, right?
Hmm.
They're going to tell you exactly where to go, exactly what they need, and if you're diligent enough to ask questions, right, and not talk about features, but talk about business problems, that's where you'll start to connect the dots and really say, you know what, everyone is talking about something over here. There's something here. Let's keep dialing in on this. Let's keep learning about it. Let's have interviews with our customers. Let's ask them what problems are they trying to solve. And from this, a lot of the features, the functionality, these problems that we're addressing, that's how a lot of the not only the culture starts to change, but also the shift in mindset, which is, hey, I don't always have to worry about solving all of my problems. There's a solution provider that can help us too. And all we have to do is work with them to really get to the heart of what the problem is. And then we can talk about how we solve it.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, with your background in continuous improvement, is this something that is 1Factory a tool that you are looking at and you're like, God, I wish I had this 20 years ago or 15 years ago?
Yeah, it's really funny you bring this up because when I was at my family's business, Corrales Technology, short for Cortec. This is where I had actually met the founders of 1Factory. So they were a young company, came into Cortec, and basically, pitched the 1Factory software. And I sat through the demonstration, and it was beautiful. And I was on the supply chain side, and my first question to them was, everything that you do inside of this application, can you do it at the supply chain level? And at that time, it was like, the software was still early. We didn't have that ability. But the company that I worked for, we were one of the first adopters of this product, and just seeing how it revolutionized the machining side, balloon the drawing, control plans there, program the CMM to match it, click the button, CMM data goes in. I mean, we didn't have anything even close to being like that at the time. I went through that painful process like everybody else, right, of stamping the drawing and then typing the stuff on Excel. And then when I saw this, it was just like, it just kind of blew my mind.
Yeah. Talk to us about some of those features we talked about in the intro, right? So automated drawing revision comparison, tracking changes, et cetera, et cetera. Talk to us about some of those features, because to me, those are really cool. But self-admittedly, quality is an area of the machine shop that I am not as familiar with as other areas. Not that I'm familiar with a whole lot of them other than the people, but talk to us about some of those features, because I think they're pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So just kind of starting out at the beginning, right? So again, you've got this drawing, you upload to the system, we help you to balloon it automatically, and that, writes the inspection plan, as you'll call it. Customer now produces a revision B or Rev C of the drawing. What do you do? Well, in the old world, you try to compare the two and figure out what's changed and, make the ECO notes. Here, really, you just upload the new revision, and then the software automatically sort of compares the two drawings, and it highlights for you all the changes. Not only that, it basically supersedes, or it takes the data from the prior revision, drafts that over for the new rev, and then pretty much you just click a couple buttons and you accept all the new changes, and all the data from your prior plan, whatever images, pictures, work instructions, all that stuff just carries forward to the new rev, and you just need to make whatever delta changes are required.
That's awesome.
The system in the background is also logging all this metadata, right? So if like a diameter changes, tolerance or something like that, and somebody says, hey, what actually changed from Rev A to Rev B, right? Sure, you can see it as a little configuration on the screen and color, but you can actually go into the data log and it will show you every single change from revision to revision or from version to version. So if you're thinking about like the planning process, right? I craft a plan and you have to approve on it. Well, you just click what changed, and then here's a big log of all the changes. You don't have to worry about scrubbing all these different versions of plans and making sure you got everything right.
Yeah, awesome. So how is 1Factory influencing the future of manufacturing? I mean, how is this software going to influence what we look at 5, 10, 15 years down the road?
Yeah, great question. So, again, the main thing that we're realizing right now, right, just the starting point. It took a few years to really get there, but education is obviously paramount, right? Just starting with introducing to folks that the fact that there is software out there that has the ability to do these things, and really the goal is to take not just things from the planning process, but also on the execution side, being able to automate the inflow of the inspection data. You use a caliper that's connected. The data just goes in there. As mentioned before, this CMM data is automatically being absorbed in. SBC is running live in real time. You've got a nonconformance out on the floor. Well, guess what? You click one button and the nonconformance is already generated because all the inspection data is digital. The system knows what's out of spec, what's in spec. So these like flows, they start to become more automated, more obvious, right? And then now the focus changes from let's collect data and information to, well, data and information is almost available and instantaneous to us. So what do we do with it? The culture stops focusing on action, right? And sort of reacting to what happens. And now you're fostering this continuous improvement where you're saying, here is the information. It's already there for me. What do I do with it? How do I drive performance improvement? how do I drive, continuous reliability in the product? And that's really the focus that we're seeing now is folks are really understanding that the information's already there. It's already available for you. And what do we do with it? How do we use it to manifest change and become a better manufacturer?
Yeah, and I really do love that. I mean, a lot of shops that I work with, have a really hard time writing an NCR, doing that root cause, right? Digging into why do we have this NCR report right now, right? And to your point, they have the data. I just don't know if they know what to do with it once they have it, and how to enact change. So it sounds like you guys can really, you're almost making it, well, you're definitely making it easier for people, but you're almost making it excuse proof to have these changes happening in their manufacturing processes. Am I capturing that right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. So, there's, things like, for example, you're running a, continuous line and, you're checking your parts hourly or based on some frequency, right? The system has embedded types of notifications where you can say, I've got this particular feature, it's a critical feature. If the 1Factory system starts to detect drift, right, it can automatically notify a line technician or, some ME that's responsible for that job and say, hey, that machine is starting to drift out. The parts aren't bad yet, but if we keep running this rate, they're going to be bad, right? So they are getting, so this data is sort of being proactive and prompting them to do things. And then on the flip side, and I just know this from my tenure and working with all these stuff and doing work, right? Creating scorecards and all this kind of stuff. By the time you finish collecting the data, you are so spent. Analyzing it is freaking tough. Like that takes a whole nother skill set to do and to do something with. So, I mean, just getting folks the ability to kind of, have the automated flow of information, 1Factory giving some like suggestions on, here's the ability to reduce some inspections on these lots, or, here's a particular feature that's got some SPC issues, right? You want to increase sampling on it. Those are things that took a person to analyze and understand. And now the system is saying, hey, here's a red flag,
Yeah, I love it. That's really cool. Um, because it's hard to foster a culture of accountability and responsibility and success if people aren't taking responsibility for the processes that they manage, right? And this gives that ping, this gives that ability to monitor that, it sounds like. So what are you excited about personally, Michael Corrales? What are you excited about as future trends for the industry?
Yeah, I mean, really. So what we sort of see, what we envision, or even just be myself, is as I've grown up right inside of the manufacturing environment, and we talked about why this is how it's always been done, right? I start to envision, and this is kind of getting towards the future, but a little bit more of a world of self-governing, right, where the software is helping to provide decisions and suggestions, and is using data and insight to sort of help drive manufacturing suggestions. Right, here's a GD&T call out. Let's call it a flatness or a true position. Right, your aggregate accuracy for that feature is 50%. So,
Right.
you start to learn things about your processes and how putting them on this machine or that machine changes information. So I think what we'll see is a continued consolidation of applications. I think there's going to be less and less tools that manufacturers are using, and they're siloing on individual solutions that are providing large value. And then, on the other side of this is, I kind of talked about how the cloud is this productivity giant that no one's talking about. I really think it's the biggest, productivity feature of the decade. So just being able to have all this data available, instantaneous, to not have to worry about downloading information or installing stuff on the computer. It just makes it seamless. So when you have a new site that you're bringing online, just log on to the internet. It's there. The
Yeah.
data's there. You don't have to transfer stuff. Sending information to your customers, right? We work with some OEMs, and their pain points are always the same, which is I've got supplier X and supplier Y. They give me different sets of information, And
Yep.
we got all the other tools on the market, right? And we talk to our customers, and a lot of them work as a file repository. You do some work in Excel and then you upload it into the system. It doesn't help the business actually solve the core problem of I have to generate this documentation. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what I envision and where I think we're going, which is systems actually help to facilitate and produce the work. If you want to do a PPAP or first article, you're not going to go to Excel. You're going to go to a system that helps you to provide this information. You need to send it to your customer. Your customer is going to request it from you electronically, or you're going to submit it electronically. And I think we're going to see a consolidation of platforms, these platforms getting more connected, and really much more impetus on suppliers connecting with their OEMs. And the folks that are doing that, the OEMs are going to see the benefit, the suppliers are going to see the benefit, and the folks that are not, it's going to be harder to scale and grow and facilitate that kind of environment.
Yeah, I mean, I want to unpack this a little bit. I've got two questions I can think of. Um, you know, you talked earlier in the episode about those multiple softwares and generations, as older generation is retiring, but they don't want to click through so many different softwares, right? So I agree with you. I think that consolidation almost needs to happen sooner than later, so that the baby boomer, the Gen Xers, and even the millennials are a little bit more streamlined. They're not having to take those multiple clicks to get through. But I think that as you talk, software, there's always cybersecurity like questions, right? That come up with that, and as you integrate that ecosystem within software, what kind of security concerns does that raise, and how is 1Factory positioned to like address cybersecurity issues?
Yeah, and it's a really good question. So, a lot of the companies that we work with, right, they're in the sort of defense, aerospace, medical space, even in automotive. And you think about a lot of these industries and the types of products that they're building are literally no joke. Like they involve the well being of someone's life, right? Somebody's
Absolutely.
life is at stake. So, the defense side and aerospace side, like security is extremely high. So we maintain like all of the required NIST standards, the traditional SOC 2 cybersecurity certs. All of the files inside of 1Factory, right, are basically stored on the same place. The Department of Defense, ITAR, FedRAMP servers, right? So data is ultra secured there. And then when we have like additional encryption protocols, right? So a database is encrypted, but every single file in that database is encrypted with its own unique key, right? So even if you get in somehow miraculously, guess what? You still have to encrypt thousands and thousands and thousands of files, and the download time on that is tens of thousands of years. And then we also offer some solutions that the manufacturer uses on their end. So they say, hey, I have SSL, or I sign in through my Okta provider, or hey, I want to restrict the IPs that can log in, or hey, I'm an ITAR company, but I've got some users that aren't ITAR. Okay, well, you can set your ITAR users, you can set ITAR parts, you can redact information. So, customers in the defense space and the aerospace world, they're so happy that they don't have to manage all of these protocols themselves.
Yeah.
That service, and there's a solution, and there's software out there that does all this madness for them, and all they need to do is log on, and they feel comfortable that it's secure.
I like that, and it makes total sense. Um, Michael, I remembered what the question was that I wanted to ask you earlier, and we were talking a little bit about collaboration, and how does, not to completely like wicked left turn here, but from your viewpoint, collaboration is such an important part of manufacturing, right? Especially within different parts of the supply chain process. So how does a software like 1Factory support that collaboration? And that's where I was trying to go earlier, and I lost the word. So but I think that's an important part about what 1Factory brings to the table, because that collaboration is such a huge part of building that healthy culture.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of a little bit full circle to what I was mentioning, right? Which is it's cumbersome on both sides: the supply chain side to gather the data, and then the OEM side to try to aggregate everything that they're collecting and standardizing it. So, yeah, one of the really nice things about One Factory is we talked about how a drawing can be, auto balloon in the system, and it makes the inspection plan. That can go two ways in One Factory. So, me as the customer, if I have a dual source supplier, or even multiple suppliers, I can upload my drawing, balloon it, define all the critical parameters, and then electronically send that over to my supplier. I
Got
don't have
it.
to send them a email. They don't have to, review all the specifications. It's set for them. They're ready to go. Or on the flip side, if I'm the supplier and it's my job or my task to prepare that information, well, I get that prepared in One Factory and I share that information with the manufacturer, or sorry, with the OEM. And in real time, as these inspections are happening, right, the OEM, if they want, they can have access to the inspection data, which sometimes the manufacturer really appreciates because now they don't have to generate all these inspection sheets and send them over with the jobs, right? The job packet, the supplier simply goes onto the portal, they click the submit button, customer gets a ticket, they see all the inspection information, they say accept, parts go. And if you think about the traditional world of quality and like what is one of the most time consuming and expensive endeavors, and the further away you go from geography, the equation magnifies. But when you receive a product at your dock and it's discrepant, it is wildly expensive to have to generate all the reject information to the supplier, disposition, send it back, get the parts remanufactured, get them in house and reinspect. So the ability to be able to look at the quality data at source at the manufacturer before those parts physically leave the facility and go to the customer, and having the ability to disposition that upfront saves, I mean, it's millions and millions and millions of dollars across companies all around the world. And the time that isn't wasted and now can be repurposed and reutilized, I mean, that is like, to me, one of the biggest um, facilitators of cultural change, right? We're trying to eliminate
Yeah.
the fact that we even want anything bad in our facility to begin with. Let's disposition it. Let's figure it out up front. Let's handle it there. Make sure what we're getting in is good. So I'd say that is sort of like one of the big key elements of connecting the supply chain. And then just the complexities of like, when you need to request like a PPAP or something like this, and there's so many different levels and every customer has a unique solution. Our software basically allows the supplier or the customer to request this information electronically, and our system is an execution system. So we help you to build the control plans, the flows, the FEMAs, all inside of the network, all inside of One Factory ecosystem, and share that information and approve and reject. So it's a very honest, full loop system with total collaboration. And again, the goal is to make things easier, make things more efficient, and ideally increase quality at source.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Um, Michael, as we wrap up here, what haven't I asked you that you want to share with the listeners today?
I think if we're talking about culture, right, and how to make an impact on culture, right, and we always know why have things always been done. I really want to just stress the listening because I think the listening is a really great way to disarm people. Lots
Yeah.
of times, we all know this from the manufacturing. It can be frustrating at times. It can be difficult. Things are not always easy. And over time, we build biases, right? And we build, sometimes you're not feeling too good, on that day or whatever.
Yeah.
Just being able to remember that we are all human
Yeah.
and be able to connect on that level and listen is extremely important. And I think the first step in changing culture is really just listening, stopping and listening, commiserating with somebody. And then, when you have the opportunity to share and to explain and to discuss. And I've always found that if you want to have a great culture, right, and we can see it like when we go travel with certain our customers and businesses, you can always tell when you're in a place that's exceptional, right, and the
Yeah.
people are always happy and they always feel good. And we find it's because they feel like they're heard, they feel like they're listened
Yeah.
to, like they have a say in the business, like they take pride in what they're doing. So yeah, that's the one takeaway. I could just really, really stress listening for everyone.
I love that. I love that. And it is amazing. I mean, I can tell as soon as I walk through the shop floor what the culture's like. The first thing I look for is, are operators looking at their shoes or the part, or are they looking at the guest who just walked in and have smiles on their face, right? Because that's a massive indicator on what the culture is like. I also look at bathrooms. How clean are bathrooms? Because people who are engaged, people who work for a place that they love to work at, they take care of their own bathrooms. It's not something that, so those are just a couple of things that not that I walk into the women's room, but in the men's room, I definitely am able to pick up on that. What are some things that you're able to pick up on as you're walking out there with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, the yes, smiles is always, the big thing. The floors, right? If you see nice, shiny, clean floors with good lines, that's always a good thing, a sharp thing. Yeah, ideally things are clean. Again, you can kind of get the sense also too just from the pulse of people, right? Just you're walking by, or you're hearing some conversations here or there. Maybe you go to the break room, right? The break room is got nice amenities or things for folks. You can tell they're being taken care of, right? So there's a lot of these really small, subtle things, right, where help you to really get the pulse of the culture, and you can tell very quickly, right, how happy, how fulfilled do the employees feel being there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate you being on. This was a great episode. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate the time. Thanks for the invite, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. A huge thank you again to Michael Corrales for joining us and sharing such absolutely insightful perspectives on how One Factory is revolutionizing quality control in manufacturing, and how having the right technology can seriously drive cultural change within the industry. If you enjoyed our discussion and want to learn more about software's incredible impact on manufacturing culture, make sure to visit our website at manufacturingculturepodcast.com or themfgconnector.com. Here you can find episodes, past episodes, this episode's notes, and really dive deeper into our monthly themes. Also, don't forget to connect with us on social media. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I tried Snapchat, didn't really get it, didn't really like it. Maybe I'll go back, not quite sure. But follow us to stay updated on upcoming episodes, behind the scenes content, and more engaging discussions like we had today. If you found today's episode enlightening and think it could benefit others in your network, other people you know, your boss, your grandma, please share it with your friends, family, coworkers, etc. If you have a moment, we would also really appreciate if you would rate and review our show on whatever platform you watch or listen to it. Your feedback helps us grow and improve, but more importantly, it helps other people find us, because every time that you rate and review us, it rockets us up the charts, and then more people find us, and then I can make you better episodes. So anyway, thanks again for tuning in. And remember, whether it's through cutting edge software or innovation management techniques, there's always a way to drive positive change in manufacturing. We look forward to bringing you more stories and insights next time. Until then, keep innovating and pushing boundaries in your own spaces. Have a great day and keep making things.